He's also the co-founder of the Humanize My Hoodie movement. He's with me now from his home in Minneapolis, and welcome to our program. I'm really looking forward to our conversation, Mr. Soul. Good morning.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
I know you were taking part in the protests Saturday and Sunday night in Minneapolis. What was it like to participate in these particular marches, in this particular protests?
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, it's heavy emotion, anger, sadness, and a constant need to keep the focus on George Floyd. You know, with so much happening around us, it's important to keep him as the focal point in all of this because there's just so many moving parts. You got white supremacists, you got law enforcement trying to, get their sound bites. You got government officials trying to, maneuver in this situation, and it's a lot. So for me, I just got to be boots on the ground and be present for the people. I'm a person of the people. I don't get lost in politics and all of that other stuff. I really want us to be safe and be humanized.
And spread the word. I mean, you've been a longtime activist. You will have been in marches, unfortunately, I'm sure, for this very issue over the years. But is there anything in particular about this moment and this death of George Floyd that you think signifies perhaps something different?
Yeah, I feel like it's the tipping point. It feel like, because we thought when Philando Castile was killed, we felt like that was when the nation was going to wake up and understand what's happening to black people in America. But it wasn't. I mean, we held down a space for 21 days. You got to think, one point we held down a precinct for 18 days with the death of Jamar Clark. And we thought those things would help. To see George Floyd lynched in front of all of our eyes, I think it sparked something in the world that made people say, yeah, black people are still being hunted, just like back in the day. So under the 13th Amendment, they're still killing us, and I think we've had enough. So you're going to see more protests. You're going to see things possibly getting burned. You're going to see a lot of activity. And, the people really want justice. We want the perpetrator to stay in jail, and ultimately we want him to end up in prison. We need that cop in prison for a long time.
And certainly, so we're hearing that from you. We've heard that from Mr. Floyd's family as well. But you're right. I mean, going back to that video, it was just so excruciating to watch, and it brought an awareness that perhaps we wouldn't have had without it. But how do you go from the awareness over that and bring or get to the change, get to the justice that you're seeking so rightly?
Yeah, I mean, we start with the first cop, then we arrest the other 3 police officers. Then we talk about how do we shrink the police department, then ultimately how do we abolish it. We have people in the community who are amazing folks. They're therapists, they're social workers, and they also licensed to carry. We trust them a little bit more than we trust law enforcement because the police have been killing us since forever. I've been choked by police, pepper sprayed. I've went through the worst things by law enforcement in my life. I'm grateful that people are now listening in this hour because we couldn't breathe as kids. And I'm 41 years old now, and I'm still saying that I can't breathe.
I want to ask about the role of others in all of this. We were just playing a little clip from the governor of Minnesota, you probably heard, and he said this: we do this right together and we get a change. Now, he's a white man, the governor of the state. People of other colors, other races have been watching what's happened to George Floyd, and they are hurt by what is happening, and they want to see action as well, and they want to help in that process. So what role can they play?
I mean, we taking our power back. Like, we're not listening to government officials. Governor Walz, he's not out here with us at night. He's not worried about the black community and figuring out what needs to happen. I mean, think about that yesterday. My wife and my other family members were on the bridge yesterday, and an 18-wheeler made it through. They can't protect us. They don't know what they're doing. They've been able to act for so long, but now they're being exposed. So the power is with the people. We're going to figure out the solutions, and we got the skill set to actually make a safer world. And that's what we're working for in this hour.
So even for people who are not part of the African-American community, I mean, even to be actively anti-racist, to step forward, to denounce racism wherever we see it, that's not part of the solution as you see it. It's all to come from within your community?
No, I mean, we have allies who step up and fight against racism. Absolutely. We got to tear it down in schools. You got to think about Zora Neale Hurston. She said black people experience racism just crossing the street. So absolutely, white people need to check their white family members. Absolutely, we need that work done, but we also need a divestment from police and have that money reinvested in the black and brown community and other indigenous communities. That has to happen if we're going to truly have equity.
I want to ask about leadership. We've been showing some scenes. You would have heard me talk about what's been going on in Washington. At the White House, they actually flipped off the lights last night as the protests went on. And the president, we learned on Friday night, took refuge in the bunker as the violence was reaching its peak on Friday night. What should Donald Trump do now?
Get impeached. I mean, get out the way. You know, get real leadership in there. We don't need people who are clowns and puppets for white supremacy. You know, on some level, he's facilitating a lot of this stuff by saying, if they looting, you shoot them. We don't need anybody like that. We need a true leader. I've been an effective leader in my life, and I'm grateful for that and privileged to be able to say that. He's not a leader. He's nobody I can look up to. So I don't listen to what he say. I watch what he does. And it's time for him to get out of that office. It's not for him.
I want to talk about a couple of other moments on the other side of things. Officers, when you talk about you trust a lot of things more than police. And yet we've seen in the past couple of days, Mr. Sowell, we've seen officers take a knee alongside demonstrators. The police chief in Atlanta saying she was appalled by George Floyd's death. In Flint, Michigan, a sheriff joined in the demonstrations. I'm going to bring in some pictures of what happened in Shreveport, Louisiana. A police officer, hugging, soothing a crying protester and saying, "We hear you and we are here for you." How significant are those gestures?
They're not significant at all. They've been doing that. We've been seeing police officers kissing babies, letting them play with the sirens, letting them, be around the dogs. We've seen all of that stuff in the past. We see them show up in parades and all of that stuff. It's time for them to hold the white supremacists in their police force accountable. That's what we need. We don't need them to show that they're human. They already humanized. They badge and their uniform allow them to get the credibility of being heroes. They're not all heroes. It's a small portion of them that are amazing. Majority of them are supremacists who terrorize our community. So instead of taking a knee, hold that white supremacist in your police department accountable. Police yourself. Hold yourself accountable and get rid of the bad ones that's making y'all all look bad. But people look at it like it's one bad apple. It's a rotten tree. I don't know how loudly I can express that.
No, you're making your point very clearly. Just to wrap up, I look at you in your hoodie, Humanize My Hoodie, the movement you co-founded. That takes us back to Trayvon Martin in 2012 and the powerful symbol back then. Still talking about these issues 8 years, and of course it's far more than 8 years, and so many names and so much life lost. Where do you go from here?
We continue to rise up. We continue to protect our families. We continue to speak truth to power, and we don't stop. Our ancestors blessed us with so much, and it's like, I'm not going to let them down. Harriet Tubman fought for us. Nat Turner fought for us. Frederick Douglass fought for us, and I'm not going to let them down. So I'm willing to risk it all to see a brighter day for my children and my children's children. So we continue to fight, man. Every time you got a voice or a microphone, use it to change the lives of somebody who's being oppressed. For me, I'm an ally to the disabled community. I'm an ally to the trans community. I'm an ally to people who are atheist or Muslim or Christian. Like, I try to support and love everyone. Until we can actually just look at everyone and say, I love you, we're going to continue to struggle with these issues. I want everyone to be humanized, and I don't want to have to wear this.
Jason Sowell, hope you'll come back as we continue to cover this the next days to come, and look long term with you at the solutions, at the justice, at the change you're working so actively to bring about. Thanks for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. The former president of the Minneapolis NAACP there in Minneapolis.